Question number 11, the Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. What were the names of the interested Saudi parties who participated in the evaluation of the tender proposals for the model farm in the Saudi Arabian desert, and how were they related, if at all, to the Khalaf Group who received the first $4 million payment referred to in his Cabinet paper dated 13 February 2013?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Todd McClay.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, no Saudi parties participated in the evaluation panel.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
I seek leave to table the expression of interest document, which at page 11 records that evaluation of final proposals will be undertaken by representatives of MFAT, NZTE and interested Saudi parties together.
Leave us sought. Order. Leave us sought to table that particular document. Is there any objection? There is none. It can be tabled. Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Is the Minister telling the House that no Saudi party had any part in evaluating the final proposals as referenced in his own tender documents?
The Honourable Todd McClay.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, that was my answer to the primary question.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
When did he first learn that members of the Khalaf Group had a business relationship with Brown Rig Agriculture, the successful tenderer?
The Honourable Todd McClay.
Mr. Speaker, I am, on behalf of the Minister, I'm advised that in late 2014, at least a year after the Agri Hub contract was awarded, the Khalaf Group became a shareholder in Brown Rig Adventure, the Brown Rig Agriculture. I'm informed that Brown Rig disclosed it to the shareholders, NZT, at the time who hold the contract.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Did the Minister not know of any earlier association between Brown Rig Agriculture and Mr. Khalaf?
The Honourable Todd McClay.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, I don't have that answer. The member would have to put that down in writing.
That's very convenient. Very convenient.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Where's your Minister?
Does the contract for the model farm guarantee access for the other interested desert farmers in Saudi Arabia?
The Honourable Todd McClay.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, I also don't have that information, but I'm not aware that there are a great number of other farmers in that part of the desert.
How do you know that?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Point of order, the Honourable David Parker.
Mr. Speaker, it's now a week and a half since I sought leave to table those documents. You will record the discussion that we had in relation to Cabinet papers, and the government at the time said it would only take a matter of days. They still haven't been released, and I'm going to seek leave again.
The member's going to seek leave.
Yes, sir. I seek leave to table the Cabinet paper titled Policy Review of New Zealand's Requirements for the Export of Livestock for Shorter, dated 11 December 2007.
Leave us sought to table that particular Cabinet paper. Is there any objection?
Yes, there is.
There is objection. Order.
Don't make allegations.
I seek leave to table a Cabinet paper dated 3 August 2007 titled Livestock Exports for Slaughter and Arrangements for Live Sheep Exports for Slaughter to Saudi Arabia.
Is there any objection to that one being tabled? There's
and the third document...
Is this the last document?
It is the last one, sir. The third document is the paper dated 16 October 2007 titled New Zealand's Requirement for Livestock Exported for Slaughter.
Leave us sought to table that particular document. Is there any objection? There is.
This is going badly.
Question.
Very bad.
Order. Question number 12, Dr. Russell Norman.